Circumcision is the surgical cutting of the foreskin of a male child. Neither the Hebrew Bible nor the New Testament mention female circumcision, but there are many texts in these two books on male circumcision. Dear listeners, as you all know, Muhammad considered Abraham and Ishmael as the exemplars and the foremost Muslims, that is, believers in the one and only God. Yet, the most incredible fact is the total and most astounding omission in both his Quran and Sunnah regarding Abraham's subject of circumcision. Very strangely, there is no reference at all to either male or female circumcision in the Quran. Muhammadans generally ignore this fact. The word circumcision does not exist in the Quran, which does not even mention Abraham's circumcision, although it does honor Abraham as the first Muslim and the model of the believers. Muhammad did not take circumcision, the divinely ordained contract, into consideration. This contract, according to the Bible, included, of course, Ishmael at age 13 and all his seed. The only explicit references in the Quran are two verses, 2.88 and 4.155, that use the term uncircumcised in a metaphorical, non-literal sense associated with hearts. قُلُوبُنَا غُلُوفٌ, in reference to the Jews. Here are these two verses. Al-Baqarah 2.88, and they say, our hearts are hardened. قُلُوبُنَا غُلُوفٌ. Al-Nisa 4.155, our hearts are hardened. قُلُوبُنَا غُلُوفٌ. Nay, but Allah hath set a seal upon them for their disbelief, so that they believe not, save a few. The term غُلْفَة in Arabic actually means a foreskin or a cover. Muhammadan exegetes translate this expression into English as our hearts are sealed, or our hearts are hardened. It never occurred to them that it is in reality a reference to circumcision. They deliberately ignore the fact that this expression comes from the Hebrew Bible. In many verses of the Bible, uncircumcised people are considered impure. For this reason, the uncircumcised were not permitted to enter the sanctuary or even Jerusalem. We should have expected that Muhammad's Quran would also have forbidden uncircumcised people to enter the sacred mosque, but it does not. In the tradition of the Jews as ordained in the Torah, it is an imperative that every male child in the family should be circumcised, since it represents the affirmation and continuity of the covenant between the Almighty and His chosen people, the Israelites, as shown in the following verses from the Torah. Genesis 17:1 to 27. And when Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am the Almighty God, walk before me and be perfect. And I shall establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God to you and to your seed after you. And I will give to you and to your seed after you the land where you are a stranger, all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession. And I shall be their God. And God said to Abraham, you shall keep my covenant therefore, you and your seed after you in their generations. Every male child among you shall be circumcised, and you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you. And he who is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you. Every male child in your generations, he who is born in the house, or bought with money from any stranger, who is not of your seed. And the uncircumcised male child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. And God said, Sarah your wife shall bear you a son indeed, and you shall call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he father, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at this set time in the next year. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all who were born in his house, and all who were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the same day as God had said to him. And Abraham was 90 years old and 9, when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. In the same day was Abraham circumcised and Ishmael his son. So-called believers and unbelievers, take note of the following extremely important points. 1. The covenant between God, Abraham, Ishmael, and their seed required the act of circumcision. 2. The covenant of circumcision is clearly mandated upon all the descendants of Isaac and Ishmael. 3. Only in the case of the promised land does God allot it uniquely to Isaac and his seed, and excluding Ishmael and his seed from it. 4. While the Israelites and their descendants, the Jews, diligently and against all odds kept God's covenant for the following 2,500 years, the alleged descendants of Ishmael, the Arabs, suffered a unique case of national amnesia. They not only completely forgot the covenant with God and the unity of God by reverting to polytheism, they even forgot to give the names of their illustrious forefathers to their male children. 5. Since the word circumcision is not mentioned in the Quran, it is therefore not one of the obligatory and necessary acts of the followers of Muhammad. 6. Muhammad, the alleged follower of the perfect Muslims, Abraham and Ishmael, actually broke the covenant with God and hence was impure and cut off from his people, as was the case in reality, just as God predicted. 7. For this break with the covenant of God, Muhammad could not have ever been a prophet or even a messenger of the God of Israel and Jesus, nor could Allah be the same God.